Good.
Recorded, and it's all yours, Mike D.
Thank you, Evie Jack. What's up, everybody? Metro, what's up? What's up? What's up? It is that day again. It is our team meeting day, and we got some good news like always, because that's just how we roll here at Metro. So let's go ahead and get started with welcoming some new folks to the team, to the family, and Evie's going to pull that up. So we're going to welcome Richard. I know his photo is not there. That is my bad. I will get it up there next time so you know who Richard is. So Richard, welcome to the family. Tanya LAPKOVA, welcome to the family as well. We are super, super stoked to have you as a part of the family. And Siobhan as well, thank you for joining us. We're super stoked to have you. And I believe we have one more, right? There you go. Diane Wheeler, welcome to the family. So thank you so much for choosing Metro as your real estate home. We do not take it for granted, and we're super, super grateful to have you as a part of the team. So with that being said, let's do some more good news. Why not, right? It's a good thing. So who's got some bucket fills, guys?
I do.
Hey.
I'm excited. I got to meet with our escrow team on, I don't know if it was Monday or Tuesday, but we've made some significant changes in escrow. I'm going to be leading it up now, and I am so excited to be in this team with Justin and Nicole and Vanessa. We are really fortunate.
I love it. Thank you, Ashley. So I think we're now, like, not officially, but unofficially A++ escrow, because Ashley's in the mix now too. So awesome. We have so many just awesome things happening. We're going to get into a little bit more about the escrow in a sec, but let's do some more bucket fills, y'all, because I know there's more to fill.
I'd like to.
There we go. Hey, Andrea.
Hey, Mike. How are you?
Good.
It's good to see you.
Good to see you too.
So I would like to acknowledge Lawrence Avila for just killing it and just being a great guy, being the best listing agent I've ever worked with. And I haven't worked with many, so I think he's holding the bar really super high, and just so proud of him for doing so well.
Love it. Thank you, Andrea. And that I love the love, seriously. And Lawrence is an amazing man and real estate agent. We're lucky to have him as well. And you, Miss Andrea, of course. So let's do one more. I got room for one more, guys. One more.
I want to fill a bucket.
Sarah Samiril, what's up?
If I need to be a bonus, that's okay. But I want to fill Evie Jack's bucket up one more time, as we are in the in-between bold weeks. We had business planning clinic last week. We had, I don't know, I feel like 27 other things last week for her to manage and navigate us through. And she does it all with a smile and grace and keeps us all on track for where we're going. And I saw the supply mailing list for Bold launching step 2 next week. And I am thankful for her every day, and even more so to have as our events companion. So you guys, when you see Evie, just shout thank you, because you don't know how magical she's making your world.
Seriously, I second that and amen.
I got one.
Oh, go for it. Go for it.
Okay. Peggy Rose over here. Hey, I had this opportunity to get a listing downtown, and, you know, I'm not a specialist downtown. Of course, we don't really need to be, but this guy, he wanted it, the seller, he wanted a specialist. So I said to him, you know, I've already got a downtown team, which was so cool, because I knew Mike Law, Claudine, and Deborah Brown, downtown Debbie Brown, could get my back for me. And I called each and every one of them, and they came forward like you guys wouldn't believe. These people, they were rooting for me. They were like, I want you to get this listing. They're helping me. And the seller signed yesterday. And it's all because these people have really helped me, where, you know, I have no knowledge of this building and all that stuff around downtown. So I just appreciate that. And that's just the KW culture. It just feels so good. Thank you so much, you guys.
Thank you, Peggy. And that's so, so true. Like, I literally share things like this to new agents that are joining us all the time, because the status quo of how it is in the real estate world is not how we are. And sometimes, like, I'm not saying we forget it, but let's just like thank our lucky stars for the fact that we're here at Metro. So thank you, Peggy, for that. Really, really appreciate that. All right.
I have one more.
Oh, go ahead, Sarah.
Really quick, I know Robert needs a lot of time. I 26 agents, teams, groups, individuals placed on the regional SoCal awards list again this month. And you guys are so amazing. It's so fun to celebrate you. All the work everyone does together adds up. And if you didn't place on that list, the list you did place on, I also shared, and feel free to share on your social media. Our market center placed in the top 5, and you guys, some of those are 1, 2, and 3, right? But top 5 in all of those categories I put out there for September alone as a month and for year to date. That's 21 market centers throughout all of Orange and San Diego County that we sit in the top 5 or higher, right? Top 5 in there at these things. So we see you, we support you, we love you, we're thankful for you. And if you don't have your own featured photo to use, go ahead and use the Market Center photos when you need to. And know, like Peggy said, you have an outstanding team of people standing behind you doing top work in a world of over 4,500 agents in our region, okay? So just be clear, it's out of 7, congrats, you're number 1. It's out of a whole heck of a lot. So I just wanted to make sure everyone sees that. Yes, you can use it and be proud of where you choose to be. We're proud of you. Thanks.
Yes, second that motion as well. My goodness, like it looked like the 1992 Dream Team. Those photos that just were going on, I just saw gold medal all over that. So we're lucky to have everybody, and excuse the siren in the background, but we can just roll with it. So let's talk about some upcoming trainings, everybody. So there's one hosted by yours truly right after this class, or after this meeting today, called Expired to Hired. Expired was one of the just like places that I love to go, because you can come in and kind of rescue the day and save the day for that seller that didn't have the best time the first go round, or second or third, who knows, right? So that's right after our training today, or our meeting today. Ignite session 3, led by Mr. Joe Acosta's coming up Friday at 1 to 3. And then also we need to RSVP for those, which should be on the emails that Evie sends out. And on the Facebook page as well. Bold, as Sarah mentioned, is coming up. Session 2 is next Tuesday, October 26th at 9 a.m. At the Marina Village Conference Center. And if you guys have any questions about that, hit up Evie Jack. So let's go ahead and turn it over to Mr. Broker Bob for the coaching spotlight.
Thank you, Mike. Hey, let's do a shout out for everybody doing a great job in the coaching program with our great coaches on Team Alicia. Congratulations to Paul. He's on the list again this week with 3 more BRE signed. And Raquel closed her first escrow, which was also her own listing and launch. Great job, Raquel. Team Clarissa, Carlos, closed an escrow and growth. Great job, Carlos. Drinks on you later. And Tanya LAPKOVA joined Team Clarissa in the launch coaching program. Welcome, Tanya. Glad to have you. And on Coach Carl, Kevin King closed an escrow on his second deal in launch. Great job, Kevin. You're a rising star in our office. And Javi Martinez signed his first client BRE in launch. Great job, Javi. Back to you.
Thank you, BB. So, guys, coaching works. I think that shows it right there, first and foremost. So next, we got A+ escrow, Mr. Justin Brown. Are you in the house?
Finally, yes. Hey, you guys, how's it going? Sorry I've been such a stranger. We've been really busy with some very exciting things going on. I just have one side piece. I've found out that like, the county isn't really mailing out the appropriate tax bills this season to the right places. So if you ever get a frustrating call from your buyer or from your seller that they're either getting the new tax bill from on the seller side or the buyer hasn't gotten theirs, please be sure to follow back up with them and make sure that they have the tax bill that they need. They can get that link online. All they have to do is really just Google San Diego tax collector. That phone number that's on that website, those people are so amazing, but something's wrong with that system. So the tax bills aren't, a lot of the time, probably about 90% aren't going to the right spot. So that's just the bad news. The great news is we are doing some very exciting changes, some very exciting upgrades, a little rebranding, a little remodeling, all in the best interest to provide everybody better customer service for both you and your clients. And we have a new escrow officer, Nicole Sastre. So I'll let you go ahead and take the reins there, Nicole, and have a great day, guys.
Hello, everyone. I am so happy to meet you and to be a part of the A+ team and Keller Williams team. I have 20+ years of escrow experience, and I am always here to serve. So I look forward to meeting you all, especially when you come back to the office.
Awesome. Thank you, Nicole. Welcome to the A+ and KW Metro family. We're lucky and grateful to have you. So thank you for being with us. And let's go ahead to somebody else that we're grateful for, Miss Bridget Potterton with the Culture Committee update. What's up, Bridget?
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
We can. And I see the little one in the back, really cute, by the way.
Well, I was going to say, Summer is so excited for risk management. You guys can tell by the look on her face. But speaking of excited, this coming Monday is our big event. In October, our Halloween haunted walk. So we've already got over half the spots filled, which is great news because that means we're going to be a private party. So it'll be just us guys, which will be great. And we still have about 10, I think 8 or 10 more spots. So if you haven't booked, go ahead and book on the link. I'll resend the link out this afternoon just because I'm driving and can't link it right now. But you can bring spouses if you want. I know a few of you asked. It's going to start, the tour itself is going to start at 6:30, and we meet at that gas lamp sign on 199 5th Avenue. But Movement Mortgage is going to be sponsoring the happy hour before that. So we're going to meet at Rock and Baja Lobster, which is a block away from the big sign downtown at the gas lamp. Make sure you leave some space for finding parking because you know it can be a little difficult. And it's going to be a little chilly, so make sure you guys dress warm because it will be a lot of outdoor stuff. But bring your mask because we might be going into a few haunted places. So wear your mask. Bring a friend if you want, or a spouse, or a significant other, or an insignificant other. Either way, we don't judge. And make sure you grab your tickets. We have about 8 or 10 more spots, and I will see you guys next Monday.
Awesome. Thank you, Bridget. And Summer has been doing some Disney traveling right now. So that's why she's got to recharge right now. So we get it. We get it. Love it. So guys, we got a little bit of time right now to do some property pitches. So what do we have, guys? Did we already sell them? Is that what happened?
Can I tell you?
There you go.
Can I tell you? Can I tell you guys about things that I put on the MLS and coming soon? So it's kind of like off market still.
Do it.
Okay. So the listing in the Alta building, it's a studio, and we listed it for $370. It's gorgeous, you guys. They redid it. It's built, 20 or something years ago, but he's redoing it. It's on the 8th floor, and the views are very beautiful. It's got a cute balcony that you can barbecue on, and in the building in Alta, there's a lot of amenities. So hit me up if you want to know more about that. If you have someone looking for a studio downtown, the HOAs are 544, so they're pretty low. And then I just listed a manufactured home from a cold call. Yeah, it was a couple of years ago that I called this guy, and we've been in a relationship since. Not that kind of relationship, but I know you guys are curious. It's a manufactured home on 5 acres for around 300. So, I mean, who doesn't want to move out of town now? Because of COVID, they could work in their own home. So you might maybe want to check with your database and see if anyone's, maybe changed their location. They don't have to live in town anymore, maybe. But it's like an hour away from here, and so it's going to be fun, cruising down the freeway, getting there all the time and doing my job like I always do. And so you'll see that's on the MLS. And so go ahead and check it out, you guys.
What
put the
town,
addresses.
Peggy?
What's that?
What town is it in?
Oh, you mean Jacumba? Jacumba? Is that how you pronounce it?
I love it. Thank you, Peggy, for that. And so guys, next is our buyer pitches, which we're going to throw on the Facebook page, as you guys already know. And now, without further ado, for our main event, Mr. Broker Bob with Risk Management. Take it away, BB.
Thanks, Mike. I appreciate it very much. It is so nice to see 70 people on this call today. Glad you can all make it. Hopefully I will make your time worthwhile to come spend 45 minutes listening to Broker Bob blab on about risk management. So hopefully I've made some some interesting points today that you'll take away with some knowledge. So most of you, some of you know, some of you may not know, or you're learning this for the first time. We have had three, count them, three different legal proceedings in the last 2 months, actually 3 months. And it broke Broker Bob's record. Haven't had to do a payout. And I wasn't happy about it, but you know, you learn from the mistakes. But every one of them had some similarities in it. So I wanted to, I'm not going to speak to the actual issues because I have confidentiality with what's going on right now, but I want to speak to some of the things that agents could have done to help them. And many of you know that when you sign your independent contractor agreement, our E&O insurance carrier covers, hold on one second, I'm getting a lot of text messages. I need to close my text message box. Many of you know there's a deductible. The deductible is $10,000. $10,000. That is the deductible that we have to pay, or the agent has to pay, before the E&O carrier pays the remainder. So this last one, which was $50,000, the agent coughs up $10,000. Keller Williams will participate in that $10,000, provided it wasn't something that was so outlandish that the agent completely violated the rule of law. So rest assured, we're not going to throw you under the boat and not have you have to pay $10,000. But I want to make you aware of the repercussions in this industry, because now we're entering and leaving. We're leaving one of the strange. We're in the middle of one of the strangest real estate markets I've ever seen, and we're entering a phase where it's a little bit slower. But brokers as a whole, we all agree, when real estate markets shoot up the way they do, we know that litigation will follow. And so a lot of the non-contingent offers that were written in the last year, there's some real repercussions that could come down the road with that. So just be aware and listen to today, because I'm going to give you some guidelines to operate moving forward that will help you in case there's any mediation or arbitration or court proceedings that you end up being in. So let me go ahead and share my screen. So everybody can see that, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so risk management for October 2021. The market just twirls about. What we're going to cover today. We're going to give you some hot topics from Risk Management Committee from SCAR, because I sit on that committee, so you're in the know of some stuff. Talk about the updated, it's not really updated, it's just the COVID protocol for our office, so everybody's in the know. And I will continue talking about it until we're through with COVID. The main feature will be mistakes that can cost you $10,000. And that's the E&O deductible that would need to be paid before they make the payout. And then I'll give you a little update with if you got listings with tenants that is coming up, and then Mark's initial and final file review and some Q&A. Okay. So the new RPA classes. You will see the latest version in the chat box. Mark, can you drop that in the chat box? Do you have access to version 24?
Oh, the draft of the RP, yes, I can do that.
Yeah. Mark's going to drop in the chat box the latest version. Timelines approaching. December is when it's going to be updated. The existing RPA will go bye-bye one day. And all of a sudden, the new one will pop into your zip forms and in the templates. So if you have not sat in on the class that Mark and I taught, it's on our KW Metro San Diego page. You can go listen to it. It's broken into 2 1.5-hour blocks. Also, you can go to the SDMLS or SDAR YouTube page. My friend Kevin up there did another class too. His was a little bit shorter, like an hour, hour and a half, but he breezed through it. He went really fast. So be aware of that. But you can also go to, oh, well, here it is. Here's the draft of the RPA version. It's called draft because they're still making changes to it. For the most significant ones, they've been made. There'll be some other minor ones as time moves on. So just be aware, you might be getting version 24 today. What will be uploaded into zip forms might look a little bit different than this. So that's what it looks like. get used to it, get prepared. This came up recently at SCAR, and it's agent use of photos on websites and social media. So this has become a cottage industry. And Mark, this is in the KW Metro page that we put together under car Q&As. Can you please drop that link in there too? So if you have any social media, websites other than Keller Williams websites, Instagram, anything like that, where you're going out and you're harvesting photos from the web, and if these photos actually are not licensed, in other words, you don't have the license to use them, there's an industry out there that's going after real estate agents that are using photos that are pulled off the internet. They're basically stock photos, and the photos are owned by a photographer. We actually had an agent in our office that we ended up helping them pay off the person that was going after them, and it wasn't cheap. It was like, I think about $5,000 to make them go away, because this agent used a stock photo on their blog that wasn't licensed by them, and the attorney was going after our agent. So if you have any social media or stock photos that you've put on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, anything, go through that and pull it off if you think you could violate some license agreement. And that car Q&A is dropped into the chat box. It's also stored on our KW Metro page. I've now created a folder with a lot of the car Q&As, and I'll just point this out where it is in the associate folder. It's labeled right there, car Q&As. And as a matter of fact, I'll go ahead and drop that in the chat box too, so you can have that in there as well. So be aware, these people are out for blood, and they will get it from you. I'm warning you now that that's an important thing to look for. And then also, I'm going to drop a name in the chat box, and I'm not going to voice it because we are being streamed on YouTube. Take note of that name, write it down. If you ever get a phone call from this name or talk to that he identifies that name, hang up. Do not engage, do not talk, just hang up. This guy makes it a practice to go after agents and claims that they are violating the do not call list. And he's doing some rather suspicious stuff. And just write that name down, keep it in your list, and don't talk to him. Because we also had another agent that had to pay some money, and we paid part of it as well too, because this person engaged prior to knowing that this person was one of those telemarketing scammers. Okay. Updated COVID protocols. Here's the protocol, Broker Bob's. If you're in the office and you are vaccinated, you do not have to wear a mask. It's your choice. If you are unvaccinated, you are wearing a mask in public areas, no questions asked. I have broker liability. If you are not vaccinated and you pass on COVID to somebody, that person can come back and sue us because I didn't take steps necessary to protect. No argument, end of story. So how do you prove you have a COVID vaccination? You see Ariana, she has a list compiled. If you can't prove, you're wearing a mask. Bottom line, I'm done talking about it. And if you don't like it, go fly in an airplane, see how far you get. Okay, mistakes that can cost $10,000. The main feature. I bring this up because these three cases had a lot of similarities, but these are some of the things that we're seeing from STR risk management that could potentially end up with post-close transaction mediation or litigation. I put the very first one, which is the one that probably scares me the most, writing a non-contingent offer. Every one of us, yes.
Sorry, could you zoom in on that a little bit? Maybe go to 150% in the left-hand side. There you go.
Having trouble, old man? You can't see that?
Yeah. Thanks.
It's usually me. Thank you, Mark. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
So a lot of this happened. No appraisal, no loan, no inspection. And my biggest fear is there will be one or two that will slip through the cracks, that if the market softens or heaven forbid it was an inspection and the buyer came back and said, oh, we're found out there's major foundation issues and you told us, you didn't guide us to get the inspection. So if you did that and you wrote a non-contingent offer and you're doing that moving forward, the best thing for you to protect yourself, well, I'm going to speak to more about that, about how you do in all these. It's pretty much the same thing, which is the next subject, not maintaining a proper communication log. So of the three, so hopefully you all know what a communication log is. Do you guys know what a communication log is? Anybody want to say? Bueller?
Email communication.
Okay, but what is it?
And you CC everybody and you put in the subject line exactly what it is that you're talking about.
Okay, I want a little bit more.
It's a running record of all your conversations that you interacted with on the transaction to be uploaded into Command.
Thank you, Andrea. Thank you for your input. Yes, Nikki, you're right. Every time you have a conversation with a principal, and it's something that's a really big material fact. Let's say you get the inspection back and the inspector recommended a secondary inspection on the foundation. You had the conversation with the buyer. Hey, the inspector says we should get a secondary inspection. And the buyer says, oh, no, we don't want to do that. You memorialize that conversation in an email. Per our conversation, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, we discussed the inspector's report that on February 2nd, 2021, that they recommended you do a secondary inspection on the foundation. You've decided you've not wanted to move forward with that, and this email will confirm that conversation that we had. That will memorialize the conversation, and then if they ever come back and say, you did not tell me, you can pull up that email and say, yes, I did. Here it is. Here's the conversation we have. Oh, and by the way, you replied, in your email, you put, please confirm this email by replying back. So it shows that they actually received it and they read it and they sent it back to you. If they didn't send it back to you, keep following up until they do that they've read it. This can be your get out of jail free card to show that you had that conversation with someone as you send an email after that conversation. So that communication log is a compilation of emails and texts that could help support your claim that actually guided the principal correctly, so they cannot make that claim that your agent did not tell me. And of course, every time you have an email, you always, Mark says, put the subject property in the subject line, the address in the subject line, and then also CC your transaction coordinator on it. And they can easily, with a program like Folio, go in and compile all the communication from that escrow and then upload it into Command for safe storage keeping. Get in the habit of that. Of the three that we are in litigation with right now, I asked the agent, I'm not seeing a communication log and in your storage, your record storage, to which the question was, what's a communication log? And I realized I failed as a broker to not really talk about this a lot. So I will be talking about it and talking about it and talking about it until you make it a habit. And I do see when communication logs are uploaded, because Mark does the final file review and the TCs, and I always meet with Mark and we go over stuff that what is and is not happening and how we can make things better in the compliance department. The one that we paid a big sum for, if they had in their communication log that they had the conversation with that seller, what the discussion was about, it could have been the savings of $50,000. But we could not find that that conversation was ever talked about. And I know some people say, well, I have a seller that doesn't use email, doesn't use text messages, wants me to visit with them in person. Then you've got to write it out, take it to their house, discuss it with them, and have them sign it. If it's something of material fact that's so important that you think down the road, Broker Bob said that this could land me in some mediation down the road. So I want to make sure this seller knows that we had this conversation and then I memorialized it in some way. Okay. Double ending an investor or owner occupied buyer with an off-market seller. It's where we are in the market. I know it. You have a buyer, you're looking for that buyer's inventory that's not on the MLS. You're going to go out and look for it. Great. I'm really glad you're doing that, because you don't want to compete with the multiple offers on all the active listings in the MLS. But where you get in trouble with the seller is if you don't explain how not putting their home in the MLS, that they are not exposing it to a broader audience, which is limiting their market reach that could get more offers. So not explaining this and then not following up in an email is where a seller can come back to you and later say, you never told me that. The reason, foremost, in an escalating market, a seller could come back after close of escrow, months or even a year or 2 years later, and claim you misguided them. Now, I'm sure some of you are doo-doo in your panties if you've done this type of sale in the last 2 years. You should be. And I would go back and if you think that that could come back to bite you, make sure you've got your communication log wound up. This is not just in San Diego, this is statewide. The DRE notes that a listing agent who also encourages the use of a coming soon or buyer-seller matching program without broadly advertising a property via the MLS or other means, especially exposes themselves to the potential for an increased chance of civil liability and regulatory action if that agent also represents the buyer in a dual agent capacity. Such a dual agent would also need to be able to demonstrate that the agent acted in the best interest of the seller to obtain a purchase price that was as high as could be expected for a fully marketed property. The agent who receives commission on both ends of the transaction could face scrutiny, questioning whether they worked to obtain the best offer possible for the seller or was acting in such a capacity for personal financial gain. Especially if you're utilizing the coming soon and you're using the car RLA, this explains the benefits to the seller of using the MLS and the impact of opting out. So it's right there in the listing agreement. For the seller to instruct the agent to opt out of the MLS, the seller and the broker must initial page 5 of the RLA. Additionally, the seller must sign the form SELM, that's the exclusion from the MLS, or a comparable form provided by the MLS. Another thing to consider when using the coming soon status in the MLS, if you just happen to be representing the buyer as well, a good standard of practice is to ensure that any other offers you received on behalf of the seller and presented them to them, you do the following. You complete page 10 of the RPA, the rejected offer, and the date presented, date rejected. And I know I've talked about this before, but this coming soon, I get probably a call every time I have a coming soon. I get an agent to call me and say, I have a coming soon. I have a buyer that wants to buy it. How do I navigate through that? And then I'll walk them through this or what they need to do. Any questions on that? Okay. Using car non-standard purchase contracts. So we are licensed as agents with CAR and SCAR to use zip forms. That's what we're using. Well, now we're entering the iBuyer platform market, meaning Zillow. Oh, I didn't say their name, but you know who I'm talking about. They have their own documents, right? And all of a sudden your buyer is willing to use the non-standard purchase agreement documents that Zillow put out. Your guidance with those non-standard purchase agreements documents is to tell the buyer, hey, we use car forms. I don't know these forms and I can't analyze them because I can't give legal advice. We highly recommend you speak with a qualified real estate attorney so you understand what you're signing. It's not your job to analyze those type of forms with the iBuyer agreements. It's their job. It's your job to guide them where to go to understand them. Because we can't give legal, tax, zoning, all that kind of advice. So we're going to probably see more of these coming up. So if you come across a deal where it's a Zillow home or any other iBuyer, and it's a different contract that they want you to sign rather than the car documents, then you need to guide that buyer to go understand what that means from an attorney. This one is providing assurances to a client. It's natural that we all want to just help, but there's a lot of risks involved with opening our mouth too much and wanting to give advice when we know the answer. So for example, a client might want to be reassured that they get their earnest money deposit back if they exercise a cancellation right, meaning they haven't removed any of their contingencies. Don't ever say, oh yeah, we'll be able to get your deposit back because you haven't removed your inspection contingency or your loan contingency or your appraisal contingency. Now, technically, legally, in their contract, it states that they have these contingencies, but you don't know what the seller will dispute or drag it out and want to go to mediation or arbitration or court. We had a similar case recently where a buyer hadn't removed any contingencies and something happened with the buyer not being able to move forward with the property because they were fearful of their loan. They wouldn't be able to get their loan and somebody in their family got sick. And the guidance was, well, yeah, you can technically remove, cancel based upon it didn't pass inspection, but you don't know what the seller is going to do because you were 17 days into the escrow and now they held their home off the market for 17 days. They might be really pissed and saying, well, we're not, it takes one person to cancel a contract, two people to cancel escrow. And both people have to sign up, both buyer and seller have to sign up on that escrow cancellation in order for the buyer to get their money back. So technically they can get it back, but they might have to go to court to prove it. And then you just gum up everything. So be really careful about providing assurances. Earnest money is one of them. They can build a second story is another one. They can add a granny flat for sure. They can turn the two-car garage into a second unit. It's called plausible deniability. That's the word I was looking for last time, Mark. You don't want to be the person that knows everything. You just want to know enough. Even though you might know the answer, it's you got to be very careful about the advice you get and assurances you get. Okay. Here's another example. Suppose the client asks whether the neighborhood is safe. Or is it walkable? Well, you can't use the word walkable because that violates fair housing. As an agent, you might naturally seek to reassure the client that of course the neighborhood is safe, but a more considered response should be taken. First, disclose to the buyer your own personal knowledge of any criminal activity of which you are aware of. Perceptions of a crime can be quite different from one individual to the next. And merely answering that a neighborhood is or isn't safe is going to depend on the person. Like I lived in City Heights for 2 years of my life with a rental unit I own. I had no problem with it. So to me, it was safe, but other people might be afraid to live in City Heights. I wasn't. I was urban boy for 2 years. I loved it. Explain that police in cities often maintain crime statistics. You can even offer to obtain such information yourself, but following the approach to Be sure you cite the information and source and disclaim that your brokers has not verified the information. Okay. So any questions on those points that I bring up?
Robert, there's one question in the chat that was about, coming soon properties and whether it can be shown to anyone else, any other agents or any other parties outside of the brokerage.
If we have a coming soon, you can show it to any agent from this brokerage, all you want. But you can't do it from another brokerage. What Peggy Rose put in the chat box is exactly correct. Because we have a agency with the buyers we're working with. So we are allowed to be able to show it to anybody, any agent within our office. Okay.
Hey, Bob, for the guy who's going after realtors on Facebook or Instagram about photos.
Mm-hmm.
So we're talking photos of houses, not on the MLS or something. What kind of, or like, what if you copy stuff from other people's pages, that kind of thing?
Dave, it could be any image that you might find on the internet that on any page. Maybe you wanted to have a picture of the Coronado Bridge or something like that. There might on your personal page for branding and for identification, and that image may have copyrights associated with it. So I think Victor posted a link a little bit earlier in the chat of one of these services that you can subscribe to get images. Some of them are free, some of them are paid, and they'll tell you what their usage rights are, if you can reuse it or not. But it's a little risky just to collect images off of the internet and reuse them on your blog posts or your social media posts and so forth.
When they're real estate related, or
it could even be a picture of a coffee cup,
Yeah, any picture,
No, let me rephrase. When the post is real estate related, or if it's a personal post unrelated to real estate.
This is something that they're what do we want to call them, Robert? Image trolls or something like that.
Yeah.
Copyright violation trolls. They will go after anybody that they think they can get money from.
In any industry, doesn't have to be real estate.
Our industry is a good candidate for that.
Okay, thank you. That was helpful.
Now, if it's a direct link to the IDX feed of an MLS listing, that's protected because you're just posting a link to the IDX, the Internet Data Exchange, which has all the pictures on that link. But if you're taking a picture from the MLS and copying it, and then putting it on a blog or something, just that picture is owned by the agent, the listing agent. So, by the way, just a reminder, if you get a brand new listing and let's say the listing was an expired listing, you can't go take the pictures from the old listing and use it on your new listing because those old pictures are owned by the former listing agent. All the pictures on the MLS are owned by the listing agent that got to pay for them. That's a rules violation. I think that fine is $1,000 if you take somebody else's pictures and use it in your new listing. And by the way, the pictures have to be of the subject property. In other words, if you're in Normal Heights, your listing's in Normal Heights, you can't go take a picture of the trolley park sign unless the view from the person's balcony can see the trolley park sign. Okay, has to be of the subject property. So here's some best practices for listing agents. So this is pretty much across the board that you guys should incorporate into your practice, no matter whether it's a coming soon or anything. Market the property via the MLS or other broad advertising means. Make sure the seller agrees to and understands how the property will be marketed. If you're using the coming soon strategy, do not accept and act on offers until a property has been broadly marketed. If the property will not be fully marketed, meaning you're going to double end it because you married the buyer, obtain prior written permission from the seller that demonstrates that they understand that such a coming soon strategy may not result in receiving the best sales price. Memorialize that in an email. Get them to agree to it. And of course, avoid double ending a property that is not fully marketed. It is best to refer potential buyers to another agent. By the way, we had a office rule that Leona, my predecessor, did not allow dual agency by a single agent. I allow it with prior approval. You have to call me first. I need to know the circumstances. And do not use coming soon status and hold the listing off market, then accept an offer prior to MLS entry, and also representing the buyer and seller in a dual agent capacity. Moving on. Any questions on all that? Did I make you all feel good? I only see Nikki and Mark on my screen. I see Nikki smiling every now and then. Okay.
Because most of the compliance you're talking about has saved my ass, so thank you.
Yeah, we had that sticky seller for you in El Cajon.
And there's 3 more like it where it's a similar situation. And because of this guidance, we were able to structure it properly, so we're not in any pickles.
Cool. So the eviction moratorium has ended. Hopefully it stays that way. Landlords can now send 60-day notices for selling, moving back in, substantial renovations due to habitability issues. Termination notices can now be filed pursuant to AB 1482, which is at fault and no fault justifications. An example of this is if landlord is selling a property or taking it off the rental market, this is a no fault case. But, however, there's a caveat here. And this is the answer I get from, this is what I get when everybody calls me. Can I deliver a 60-day notice for my seller to their tenants? Absolutely frickin' no. And you do not need to be using the property management forms and zip forms. We wish as brokers that they weren't even there. The practice of property management, you're not licensed to do that. And you can't get, just remember, if a landlord tells you, hey, I have tenants, can I notice them? You can tell them this, but you also need to follow it up with, as always, I need to make sure that you speak with a qualified real estate attorney to make sure that you can deliver a 60-day notice. Because the federal one is gone and the state's gone, but we don't know what locality they're located in. Does the locality have a eviction moratorium on it? Okay. And don't be pulling up the 60-day notice in your zip forms and delivering it to the tenant that's in that property. You just tell the seller where they need to go to get a 60-day notice. Leave it on them to deliver it. Okay, you're not qualified and you can't do that. That's practicing property management and practicing law, and that could get you in trouble. And I know that you guys want to give great service to your sellers. You feel that's a part of your service. But again, it goes back to doing stuff you're not able to do. Great service is telling them where they can get the 60-day notice forms. And great service is telling them to speak to a qualified real estate attorney. So there should be a glut of listings coming on the market from landlords that have been wanting to sell and couldn't because they couldn't give a 60-day notice. So if I was you guys, I would be heavily marketing to non-owner OC out of area owners to say, hey, thinking about selling in this crazy real estate market? Did you know your home is worth 500,000 times more this year than it was last year? Because according to Ashley's stats, our market keeps going up and up and up and up and up. Just kidding about the 500,000, but you know what I'm talking about, okay? I think that's going to be a good market to go after. Non-owner OC out of area. People that want to cash out. Slight exaggeration, Ashley, yes, just a slight. All right, what's the most common complaint a principal tells me when they want to come sue me? Your agent never told me that. And of course, I'm always going to review. Mark sends out a nice little initial file review of what you need in your transaction. It's catered to the transaction because there's not a checklist for every transaction. So hopefully you're reading that and you're fulfilling your obligation of putting the top part, which is your responsibility, the required missing items, or making sure that they're put in there. And then the broker to listing agent recommendations. These are just recommendations we make that you should add. Those are probably the risk management ones that will keep you from getting sued and paying a $10,000 deductible. And then the TC to dos, what the TCs need to do. We are done. Did I bore you guys to death?
Yes.
Thank you, Chris. Did I scare the bejesus out of you, Chris?
No.
No? Oh, darn. I didn't do my job. All right. Any broker related questions you guys want to ask? Do you think the group would be beneficial to hearing? All right. See, there's only like 10 people on. Everybody else has their screen off and they're all taking a nap.
I have a question.
Yes. Hi, Sheila.
We talked about the agents communicating via text.
Yes.
Did we decide how we wanted to handle this as far as logging communications?
Mark, you have a better answer for that question. Yeah, I posted one of the links in the chat. It's up a little bit in the thread. It's let me find it. Cal DRE record retention. It's at 2 o'clock on the timeline of the chat. If you click on that link, it does address that question about text messages in the frequently asked questions. The takeaway is that they are not required as a part of what DRE defines as record keeping for the transaction. They're optional. If you'd like to take screenshots and compile them and put them in your transaction, you're welcome to do so. But they're not required.
The DRE says they're not required, Sheila, and I'll speak to this. The text communication could be the proof that you need if we ever need to mitigate and improve your circumstances, that, yeah, I did have this conversation with you. It's in this text chain. And so when our corporate attorney is drafting a brief to discredit every claim that they're making, we can put that in there. We have this documentation that on such and such date, our agent actually discussed this with the seller or buyer, and here's the proof. So when we're going, and we try and settle these claims before we even get to, definitely before we go to court. So this 50 grand was settled. In other words, we didn't go to court, but had we gone to court on this one, this would have been evidence we would have proved. And because this was such a particular case, it could have, if we had gone to court, it could have cost us a lot more in the long run. So we chose to sell it. But,
Robert,
yes.
can I ask a question? Would you be willing to talk about Zillow for a little bit, about how they're buying low and selling high?
Well, I don't really know what Zillow's program is. I don't want to know. I don't really care. My advice is just be the first one to talk to the principals. We're in a game right now of the first one gets to it. And there's a lot of pressures in this industry. And I don't think any agent in this industry has an answer to it. You just got to get to the buyers and sellers before they do. It's the name of the game. I'm only addressing if they want to use their own contracts in the document, that you need to advise your principal that they need to seek legal advice as to what they're signing. We can't provide it. Who knows what the industry is going to look like in 1 month, 2 months, 6 months.
There was a email that I received from RIS Media, Judy, this week, where the headline was Zillow stops buying homes, and how will that affect the industry? And apparently it's because they have a massive amount of inventory right now, and they've just stopped accumulating more. I'll forward you the email if you'd like.
Yeah, I would like to see that. And I know a little bit about the reason their inventory isn't moving is because it's grossly overpriced. And I know that from my personal experience.
I don't think publicly traded companies always make the wisest decisions. All right, I guess that's it. I guess I'm going to turn it back to Mr. Delgado if nobody has any more questions. Hi,
Thank you,
Nancy.
Robert. And good morning, Nancy, or whatever it is over there. We miss you. But guys, since BB wrapped up 5 minutes early, you guys got 5 minutes to hit the restroom, whatever you got to do before the class at 2:30. I'll see you guys back here in a few minutes.